in the case of Unix when the privileges are arbitrarily bound to an identity. The problem is solved in the Unix case by the sudo command, which permits multiple people to share root privileges while maintaining accountability. It's often the case that privileged passwords for one system or process must be embedded in another. There, they have to be protected from disclosure. All of this happens in part as a result of sloppy design, in part because the designers do not understand the environment in which their product will be used. For example, they think that the guy who administers their product doesn't do anything else. That's his job. Well, in fact, he may be administering dozens of such systems. Root has its roots in the idea that Unix was to be a single user or at least a single at least a small group system. IBM solved this problem in the MVS operating system by implementing the surrogacy function. Using this function, any MVS user can grant all of their privileges to another and revoke them at will. The logs will show both the grant and the revoke. The logs will also show any use of those privileges along with the identity of the privilege owner and the privilege user. However, the problem persists. Dozens of products implement privileged identities which must be used by multiple people. It's ironic that we are least likely to be offered dual controls in exactly the places where we are most likely to need them, that is, for the most privileged functions. Good policy and practice are often sacrificed to convenience in the complicated and sometimes ad hoc procedures used to control the use of these privileges. Note that if multiple people use the same ID and password, not only does this reduce accountability, but it increases the cost of password changes. The result is often stable, default sometimes, shared privileged passwords. The Verizon data breach report suggests that default, stable, and shared privileged passwords figure prominently in breaches. Last week I was given a demonstration of CyberArk. This product generalizes the ability to control the use of these kinds of privileges across all products and services likely to be found in the large enterprise, while providing the ability to maintain strict accountability for their use. It records the policies and implements and supports the workflow to apply the policies. Of course, all of this begs the question of what the good policy and practices are for such a system of controls, begs the question of what practices and policies the system of controls should implement. One such policy is that multiple people should be involved in sensitive duties. Said another way, the more sensitive the control, the more people should be required to operate it. One of the things that makes a control sensitive is that it can be used to obscure and conceal its own use and/or compromise other controls. Obviously, things like root privilege fall into that category. A second such policy is that the roles should be assigned in such a way as to preserve accountability. Consider three privileged roles: a system operator, a security officer, and an auditor. The operator has access to all the data except the security rules and functions and the logs. The security officer owns the access control rules and functions, but can't see the data. The auditor owns the logs and the journals. The operator can access the data, but cannot change the rules or interfere with the logs. The security officer can change the rules, but not interfere with the logs or see the data. The auditor cannot access the data or change the rules, but can control what goes into and is reported from the logs. Each of these people, simply by performing their assigned roles without doing anything extraordinary or heroic, acts as a check upon the others. Of course, all of the automated controls in the world will not compensate for lax management. The logs have to result in reports, and management must review the reports, note variances, and take timely and effective corrective action. Incidentally, in this situation, timely is defined as sometime before rather than after a breach. Once more, as is often the case with these 10-minute talks, it's easier for me to identify the policy than it is for you to apply it. That is why you are called a professional and are paid the big bucks. Thank you. See you again next week.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Right. Bye now. All right, everybody. So that was kind of good, to have Bill on the line, and he is right about that. So far as the big bucks is concerned and all that. There are many different things that come into play, and certainly he has highlighted some of that right.